There have been several key features added to working with 3D PDFs in Revu. To get started, let me show a typical 3D PDF that I have here, a model view. I can, of course, dynamically rotate, zoom, pan as before. You'll see in the 3D hoverbar now there's this new icon here, and this turns on the cutting planes. And this allows me to define an X, Y, or Z cutting plane so that I can look at the model and basically slice it so that I can get a better view of the model. Now, this cutting plane can be adjusted, and to do that, I'm going to open up the panel on the left-hand side here and show the 3D model tree panel here. Now, if that's not displayed, you can always right-click and make sure that you can turn it on by right-clicking and either pressing the Alt 3 here or just selecting the 3D model tree. I can also pin it so that it shows up also in my my drop-down here in my toolbar. But here we'll just use this now. And what I can do is control the offset. By default, the Z-plane is turned on. As I plus, let me just zoom in here a little bit so we're not fighting the screen resolution. So I can, by plus or minus, I can adjust that. I could also key in a specific value. And I can also adjust my tilt factor. So you see there it's slightly, it's tilted there, both in the X and the Y axis. So you can get a pretty complicated cutting plane here by adjusting these values accordingly, so you can find whatever specific setting you want. So number one, the cutting planes is something that have been added. Now also when I go add my markup view, I can decide to store the cross-section information. So here, let me just show that. Cut view number 1, so that if I add this view when I go from one of my predefined views to that cut view one, it'll actually turn on that cutting plane and snap me to that particular location. So cutting cross-sections, cutting planes is feature number 1. Probably one of the most exciting things now with Revu 10 is the ability to add markups. And actually, let me keep this panel open here so we can show what happens when I add a markup. So the idea is that I have a particular issue I'm talking about. You know, maybe this area of the roof isn't quite right. So now with Revu, I can take any one of my markups, that can be the pen, call out, and I am starting to add comments. Now you'll notice one of the things that we discussed is that it's kind of hard when you put markups in a 3D view to know where those markups were. So what we've introduced is this ability that as soon as you start adding comments into a 3D view, you're in a special markup mode within this 3D view. And now I can add as many comments as I want, any markups in this particular case. So I could have my pen, my call out, I could add an ellipse, heck I could even put in an image if I wanted to. But now all of these markups are related to this one particular view here. And once I'm done adding these markups, I'll click X and you'll see that there is this markup indicator here where it shows that, okay, now there's a markup view. If I click on that, it actually shows me that. But what this allows me to do is organize my markups in show when I share this model with this 3D PDF with other people, they can very clearly see where these markups are. So if I click, it snaps me to that view, and there I am. So now let me go add another, because this is really handy when it comes into when you have a lot of markups about a particular, in a particular model. So here now let me just go add some markups here. Move this, and so I can add once again just as many markups as I want. I can add some arrows here, all of the markup symbols, even my tool chest feature. I could add punch symbols here if I wanted to. All of that is available for me to be able to add to the model, so that now once I get out of this markup mode, now you're going to see these two markup indicators. So I can go back to that original markup that I placed at a markups, and then as I'm looking at the model from different views, you see that those markup indicators are always showing. They show through the model so that I never lose sight of where my markups have been placed in this particular PDF model. Another cool thing about this too is you see how the views show up as I'm adding the views. I see that I have markup 1, markup view 2, the little blue circle there indicates, okay, there's markups associated with this. I can also go in here and say, this is issue number 1, and that other one I can go in and also name it. We'll call that issue number 2. So what's great about this is now I've got these indicated. I have the original cut view, that issue 1, issue 2. So when I send this to somebody, or even better, we could be in a studio session, and as we're talking about the model, I can tell the people I'm collaborating with, okay, now click on the issue number 2 indicator, or better yet, let's click on, let me hover my mouse over here. Let's go to issue 1, talk about whatever we have to do. We can, be collaborating, adding our comments, discussing. Once we're done discussing that, we can go to issue number 2, and so forth. And one last thing that's really cool about this is that we've actually tied this to the markup list. So now when I open up the markup list and I look at the 3D, you see that there's this column called 3D view. It's automatically shown all of those markups that are related to 3D view issue number 1, 3D view issue number 2. So this ties it all together. You've got the 3D view that you can work with dynamically. You go into the markup mode, and then as you add the markups, all the power of Revu with the custom columns, being able to filter, do all those advanced functions are all there also. So that's a really, I think we've really tied the 3D combined with 2D together in a pretty effective way that we're hoping that you're going to find useful.